and really been having fun with that. So
Did you get
that's
one of the new
basically my
generation?
experience.
Did you get the Dwarf 3, I guess it is now, the third generation?
Yeah, yeah, the Dwarf 3. Yeah, it's a really nice instrument. I really like it.
Yeah, it seems like it from some of the stuff that people are posting. It's I think you have posted some, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they look good.
Yeah. Thanks.
And
Well,
we're live on YouTube. I just shared the link if anybody wanted to share that. So go ahead.
welcome to the meeting. And Michael, you're familiar, but is this your first time at this meeting or?
Yeah, hi. No, it's not. I filter in every maybe once every 6 months or
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Okay, that's why you look
Um,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah, I've been a member of the club for a couple of years, but I actually chair the imaging group for the Princeton Club, and so the Princeton Club keeps me pretty busy chairing the imaging group there.
Okay.
But obviously, I learn a lot by joining your group and this imaging, and then I also belong to the Southwest Florida group because I spent 6 months in Florida. Yeah. As far as my own experience level, I mean, obviously, I chair the imaging group for Princeton, so I'm pretty experienced, I guess. And I've been doing this for quite some time. Both started in chemical photography, astrophotography, where you image an object for like 5 hours with micro guiding. Um, Started there and back in the 80s and been at it since. So,
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's good to bring that level of experience. There's a number of us who started in the film days with hybrid film and all that stuff. So,
right.
it's always a good perspective to when you think of how much easier it is now. It's a wonderful thing now. It was fun back then, but certainly challenging.
Challenging as it was very much of an art and technique versus, science and maybe obviously it's a lost art because people coming in today have no idea what it was like. Um,
Yeah,
what I consider the traditional way because everything's digital now.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot easier and a lot more people. So, which is obviously a good thing.
yeah, exactly.
Um, but and then I think the Sea Star and the Dwarf systems, I think, bring a new level of the new level of technology and introduction. Because now it removes a lot of things that were difficult for people even with the digital before. Now it makes it one step even easier, which
Yeah,
again is
yeah,
a good thing.
exactly. Yeah. And we have a lot of people in the group who are getting their feet wet with things like the Sea Star and the Dwarf Lab, and it's easy to produce something, but then very quickly people want to take it another step further. Like, how do I actually process this if I wanted to get more out of it? Like some of the earlier questions were, well, it gives me a pretty good image that pops out of the Sea Star, but if I save the individual frames, the individual subs, can I get more out of it? And the answer is certainly yes. And then it's, well, how do I do that? So we hope to to address those kind of issues too, the people who want to get their feet wet without a lot of muss and fuss, but then also want to take it the next step further and continue down that path.
Right, and I think that's happening in the Princeton Club as well, where some folks start out with like a C star, and then they want to process their images better. Although C star processing has gotten much better as well um, in the unit itself with its own stacking, but then they introduce like for instance PixInsight. So then they start processing with PixInsight, and then they get their hands, they become familiar with PixInsight, and now they upgrade now from C star to say another type of scope. So so in that way they're actually evolving from process to post process now to actually larger apertures and other types of scopes. So
Yeah.
so that's another progression route.
Yeah, exactly. Well, good. I know Denise, you've been on before, but you were, I guess, on one other time. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I was on one other time right after we joined back, I think in like March. I've watched the videos. I have grandchildren that race quarter midgets on Wednesday evenings, so the timing isn't always great for me.
Okay, okay. You have been able to keep up with the videos though, then.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, good, good. Good. Well, welcome back.
thank you.
So, speaking of questions, we actually, from an agenda standpoint, um, let me just. So, from an agenda standpoint, excuse me, we've already gone over new attendees, things of that sort, and then I bounced back and forth a little bit. We originally had sort of a question and answer session right up front. And then I went more into a show and tell, recently processed image, new equipment techniques, things of that sort. Last month, we did it the other way around. We did show and tell because my feeling was that a lot of questions come up during that show and tell, which it did. There were a lot of discussions, things of that sort. But for this month, I've switched it back and will probably continue to keep it this way just to address more burning questions that people might have, or not even so much burning questions, but just questions people might have that as the night goes on, there might be less time or maybe it seems out of place to ask them. So with that in mind, I was thinking that we would talk about any kind of questions or any kind of topics that people might have that are, that they need help with, basically. Does anyone have anything that is puzzling them? Like you had mentioned, Mark, you had mentioned about the various different software things and different things like that. Do you want to go through some of that now, or?
Well, actually, my question is, I'm thinking about starting to do some planetary uh, imaging, and I want to. I guess I'm gonna have to get a ZWO camera to throw on the back of that 6-inch Schmidt Kasserine I got.
What are you
And
using now, camera wise?
right,
Is it
it's a
available?
Canon ESO, and I put that on, and in my backyard, I can't get any images off of it. I just can never find like I was trying to get on Saturn the other night with it. I couldn't even find it in the camera. I
Yeah.
even went as far as buying one of those eyepieces that I put on the back that had like the flip mirror. So I could put the eyepiece on there, make sure I'm on target, and then flip it so that it would go back to the camera. And I just couldn't get anything. But no matter what ISO I tried, just nothing. I was, hoping to take some video and then, go into all that kind of processing that you can do with that. I'm, kind of familiar with that and wanted to try to start learning that.
Sure.
So I got a birthday coming up, and so I'm telling my kids, hey, you guys should get together and buy Daddy a camera. And so I'm looking at the ZWO. I think it's called a 676 camera that looked like it was pretty good for planetary. I know it's the one that has the UV and IR cutoff filters already in it, and I just wanted to make sure that that was correct for planetary rather than to have it extend all the way into the near infrared range. And so anyone that's got any experience with that, I'd like to hear.
I just
Not with,
dropped the link in.
yeah, not with that. I'm just looking at that. Thanks, John. Not with that particular camera. I'm shooting with a 485, which has been preceded by the 585. I think there's a 685 now too. So let me just take a quick look. I mean, one thing,
Super low read noise.
have a 6-inch SCT, you said?
Yeah.
Are were you shooting it at the, I'm assuming it's like a f10 focal ratio. Were you shooting it at that, or did you try to put
It's an F10. I do have the reducer that I can put on there to make it a 6.3, 6.3.
Yeah, with planetary, you're typically going the other direction. You're going to make it an f20 scope or something, or an f30 with a Barlow or
Barlow,
Power
yeah.
Mate, something like that, something telecentric like a Power Mate or a traditional Barlow. Let me find the specs on this.
Yeah, I scrolled down all the way. I think it would be fine with the IR cut built into it. It's also like $20 to add an IR cut filter just screwed into it. ZWO has it, so that's not a make or break feature. The thing you're going to want to look for a planetary camera is the frame rate, and the resolution on that one's a little bit high, which could bring down your frame rate. So I'm trying to compare it to the frame rate of the other cameras I know. Um,
The 6.6, I use the 6.62, which seems to be workable.
right, so and there's at least a few cameras right in that price point. I personally have the ASI 585. It's the non-cooled one. It's color. It works quite well for planetary. Right now, I just use it as a guide scope. But
Yeah, I'm real happy with my previous version of that too, the 485. That's what I shot this shadow transit with this past Sunday early AM.
John, take a look at the 662.
662, you tell me? Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the 6.62. Pretty good luck with that one.
What's the pixel size on this
The 662 is
the
small.
676?
2.9 on the 6.62.
Oh, so it's the same. The 485 585s are 2.9 also.
Yeah.
662 is a 2.9. Frame rate of 107, it's rated at its highest.
Mark, are you familiar with Agena Astro, the mail order company? They have a buyer's guide for cameras, which is just fairly handy. Have you looked at that or looked at something similar?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
There's a specific for ZWO stuff, so I'll put a link on that. I'll put a link in the chat for that.
The handout is very handy. It's very
I think mechanically everything's okay because it drops in just like a 1.25 inch eyepiece. So you'll just have a USB cable sticking out to your computer or whatever. You just plug it in where your eyepiece goes. So that's the nice thing about these cameras.
But Mark, you mentioned that you couldn't even see Saturn. You didn't even see it visually?
Oh, visually, yeah, no problem visually.
Okay.
I couldn't see it in the screen of the live view of the camera.
Yeah,
then-
one of the common problems is just that your your field of view is narrow, and then on top of that, your focus is really critical. So when
Right.
you swap between an eyepiece and a camera, unless you have like some kind of parfocal ring on your eyepiece, like something you've sort of calibrated at first, you could go crazy
Yeah.
and to find, I mean, you could, I've done it. Well, like one time I was setting up a whole new rig and I was kind of under pressure because there was an event that was short-lived and I wanted to capture it. I missed the whole thing because from the pressure of it, and I was like way off of focus because I had just set up this new setup, and I didn't have my parfocal with me because I had it for a different setup and I hadn't done that yet, and it was kind of like it can literally make you go and feel like you're going insane. Like I know it's there, I'm pointing at it. Like if I take everything out of the telescope, I can see a bright thing in the optic, that's fairly on axis. What's going on? It wound up being a focus issue just because you don't, with planets, you don't, and that kind of gain, that kind of like a power that you're doing with planets, the kind of magnification, it doesn't take much out of focus to not see anything because they're not real bright. It's not like shooting at the moon. So one thing that I've learned to do is if the moon's out, take advantage of it.
Hmm.
Get a feature on the moon's easy to find no matter what. You could be way out of focus and it's still something, you can see something in there. Something bright is happening. Um, Point to the moon, point to anything that's really bright. One time I did it with like there was a house that I could see, like there's this farm that's probably a mile and a half from my house. I thought I'm going to just point it at the farm and try to get at least in the ballpark. So tricks like that can help a lot where you just kind of get past a barrier that can literally ruin your whole night because you just can't see anything.
Great suggestions.
So
So,
the moon is
Mark,
your friend.
Another question. You said you're using a reducer or you weren't using a reducer?
I was not using the reducer.
So you're at f10.
Yes.
Okay. Did you consider back focus?
I've read some stuff about that, and I think I was in the range. I was trying to, target I think it was like 127 millimeter. And I got kind of close to that with, with the stuff I had on there. I think it's like the camera itself's like 55 and all that. I wasn't exactly on that, but I thought I was at least in the ballpark. But yeah, I'm aware of that being a big
Yeah.
issue. Yeah. And hence maybe I just get a real camera, like one of these newer ones.
I mean, the fundamental problems are still there, whether you're shooting with a planetary camera or a DSLR. I mean, early planetary stuff, a lot of time was done with webcams, and then when the DSLR started to have video modes, people switched to that because they typically had bigger and better sensors. Um, so some of those basic things are still going to be there, but the nice thing with a dedicated planetary camera, as John said, is the frame rate. You can really bring down, like, crop the region of interest. Like Saturn's small, you only need a couple hundred pixels, four or 500 pixels at like f20 or something, to um, grab the whole planet and its rings and stuff in the frame. uh, that can significantly improve your frame rate. And in planetary imaging, where you're doing what's called lucky imaging, where you're only grabbing the best, you're only using the best of the frames you grabbed, the frame rate is key. Frame rate is more important, in my opinion, more important than even keeping the noise level down by keeping your gain low. So, like, for instance, if your gain's low, your noise is going to be lower. If your gain's lower, your noise will be lower, but uh, you might need to increase your exposure time in order to properly expose the image, right? If the gain's lower, you're going to need more exposure time, and vice versa, typically. Even like experienced planetary imagers, like pros in the field. There's a gentleman by the name of Agapios Ilia who has done a couple of presentations for our club and other clubs, and he mentioned that a number of times. Don't worry as much about gain. Goose the gain if you need to get your exposure time down so that you can get your frame rate up. Because if you capture enough frames, the your signal noise ratio goes up because the noise averages down when you combine those images, when you stack them in something like AutoStacker. So that's one of the nice benefits of a dedicated planetary camera, because you can, even though you can do that stuff with DSLRs, it's the software that you're using, like Fire Capture or SharpCap, is really tailored to those cameras. It behaves well with those cameras. There's a nice feature in SharpCap, for instance, where like the sensor in the 485 or 585, the sensor in that is fairly big. It's way bigger than what you need for doing planetary imaging. So you reduce the region of interest, and there's a button in Fire Capture that, as long as you're somewhere on that chip, you press that button, like between exposures or something like that, between like let's say you're doing a 1-minute video of Jupiter or something, or 45-second video of Jupiter. In between them, you can click it even during it. You click this little button and it'll center wherever that planet is, as long as it's on the chip, in your region of interest. So it's very nice. If you're starting to drift and you know you're nowhere near the edge of the actual sensor, because the sensor is huge compared to the space that planet takes up, you just click that little button. It looks like a planet with a dot in the center. You click that little button and it just pops it right in the center. And it's really nice. So you don't have to go chasing it with your, RA and your deck controls, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now that feature would be available on somewhat independent of camera, but the planetary cameras are still, at least from my experience with the DSLRs, a DSLR, you might be, getting 25 frames a second if you're lucky, 30 frames or something. A lot of times it's 15 frames a second. And that's going back to like a Canon EOS 70D. I think it was the last time I tried to use a camera for that. So quite a few generations back compared to where they are now. But with a planetary camera, like I was shooting Saturn the other night. Saturn's kind of small now, and it was somewhat low, not super low, but not prime time in terms of size and brightness. I was still getting 95 frames a second. And that was with 640 by 480 region of interest. If I went down to 400 by 400, it was a little too small to catch Titan. I wanted to actually catch Titan in the image so that I could see the moon causing the shadow in the same frame.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that really benefits you. I did 2-minute video runs. Even though you can go longer with Saturn, in general, because it was a shadow transit, I didn't go longer, because the moon's moving pretty fast. Titan's moving pretty fast relative to the rotation of the planet. And Saturn's like 9 or 10 hours? I forget what it is. It's something like that. And anyway, in 2 minutes of video, I was able to get anywhere between 9 and 10,000 frames.
It's a lot of frames.
It's a lot of frames. So even if I took the top 25-30% of those, it's still 3,000 frames. So the noise performance is phenomenal, even though I had to gain somewhat higher than like if I'm shooting Jupiter for sure. Because of the dimness of Saturn compared to Jupiter. But that didn't matter. The fact that the gain was high didn't matter. It allowed me to get my exposure to about 5 milliseconds And then with overhead and buffering and all that, it wound up netting out to about a little under 100 frames a second. I know Tom Nolasco with his 10-inch, he has a little more aperture. I'm shooting a 9 1/4, a C9 1/4 at f20. So I'm about 30, whatever that is, 3,800 millimeters of focal length. He can get, with his slightly larger setup, he can get routinely 100 over 100 frames a second.
Mhm.
So things like that help. Those kind of things really help.
I've had a chance to look at it. If you want a direct answer, your question was the ASI 676, I believe.
Yes.
And so reading it closer, that camera is kind of specialized to do all sky. So it has a little fisheye lens on top and it has very high resolution. It's 12 megapixel. So you can sit it out and just leave it run all night and then it'll catch things like meteors, people walking by. So that's sort of what it's specialized for. But the trade-off, like all engineering trade-offs, it's a little bit slower on the frame rate. So it might not be, given the conversation, as optimal if what your interest is would be planetary. I believe Brett recommended one, the 662. That's probably a good choice. It has a really fast frame rate. So if you're really specifically looking at Saturn and Jupiter and stuff, then go with the frame rate. But it can do it. So
Very good.
You still
One
have,
thing, the one thing with the built-in IR filter too, which you might never need, but so typically if you're shooting planets or anything, you're going to put an external IR filter on because you don't want that kind of out of focus stuff to be part of your image. But if you're shooting something like Venus ever in the future, shooting Venus with an like with an IR pass filter is a really good way to see some detail on something like Venus. So if you have a camera with a built-in IR filter, you have no way to get around that. That might never come up, but it is an option. Like as John said, an IR filter. I mean, that SV Boney place, they're like $15, I think, or $14 for an 1 1/4 IR filter that's multi-coated that works fairly well. So it at least gives you the option if you ever wanted to do something with IR, to do that if you don't have a built-in filter. And
Yeah.
probably, John, what they're doing with that all sky camera is you really want an IR filter on that, or else you get that purple when you're shooting all sky, you get that purple haze, that purple, pinkish purple look to everything.
yeah. And I don't know if you guys know, but there are little filter holders that actually screw down inside these ZWO cameras. So you can bury a filter down inside of it. So I put an IR cut down in mine and just leave it in there most of the time. But I can still unscrew it if I don't want it.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yes, I
Yeah.
didn't realize you could do it at first. So
Yeah.
what's the standard LP filter in the C Star?
C star? I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we're specifically talking planetary cameras, Bill. What Mark was asking about was recommendation for planetary cameras. The price point of that 662 is quite nice.
I think it's why it's on back order.
The other thing would be the other consideration, Mark, is whether you're shooting monochrome or color.
I want to go color at this stage.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So for the planets, that especially starting out, monochrome's nice because
Timer for 10
sensitive.
minutes.
But color for the planet, doing one-shot color makes things considerably easier, especially with the rotation of the planet and everything. Just capturing it all at once. Okay. What other questions we have out there before people show latest stuff and things?
I have a brief announcement teaser again. I've been teasing this for a while, but I did I'm really into AI stuff, just playing around with it. And if you're familiar with PixInsight, one of the software products for editing images, post-processing, the RC Astro offers some really cool filters for doing denoising and deblurring, blur exterminator, noise exterminator, that kind of stuff. It's what the pros use. And since I use Cyril, which is an open source post-processing software, the TLDR here is Cyril will uh, just got a feature merged. It's not released yet, but it allows you to use some like AI filters like that. And so I had built one called Uber Smooth for smoothing images and denoising images. And you should be able to start using that in Cyril, hopefully during the next release.
Oh,
It just got,
congratulations.
it got merged in last week, but it's not in an official update. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's great.
That's great to hear, John.
Yeah, I
Nice
just
work.
checked it. So um, I will let people know when it's actually easy to use. It's not quite there yet.
Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Very cool.
And it can work with planetary. It can do some denoising and it does a little bit of sharpening of Gaussian noise. And our atmosphere makes things blurry. It's like looking through a swimming pool. Things are a little blurry.
Hmm.
And so it can kind of remove some of that and sharpen the image a little bit. So it's still useful for planetary stuff too.
I think Tom has been using it, right, for his planetary
I think so.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably one of my power users. He's used it more than I have. Um,
He's a good poster boy.
yeah, no,
Absolutely.
he's making beautiful, beautiful things. And
I,
he's careful with it. He blends it. So he'll use like 50% denoise and then add in, 50% dry to get the right mix so it doesn't look overcooked.
Yeah, I think that's key with all that stuff too. Even with Blur Exterminator, I use PixInsight with the Russell Croman stuff, and at first I kind of just experimented with just the defaults, but once I kind of got used to it, I dial everything way back now. It just looks more natural to me. As someone who started out visually and then has been doing astrophotography for a long time, it just the stuff starts to look kind of fake if you push it too hard. The sort of
Came
AI.
across a question. I came across a software called Big Sky, Bigggsky, free software. Has anybody heard about this? Somebody look it up and see. It looks like it's pretty comprehensive. I think it's just bigsky.com or something.
Yeah, I'll drop a link in. Yep.
Let's see if I can find it. Looks like maybe only for planetary. I'm not sure.
Some kind of post-processing software.
Yeah. For astro stuff.
I've never heard of it. It looks like a newer one.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it either, Tom.
All the pictures on Astrobin are like moons and planets, mostly.
So you found it?
Yeah. And
It's this thing right here.
mhm, that's it.
So if you look at like why I did that, I don't know. I tried it and it claims to be like one button deconvolution. It seemed to work great on Moon. So I have some old pictures, but I'm not sure whether you would do that for deep sky, right? Deconvolution.
If you look on Astrobin, people link what software they use. All the images that say they processed it with that software, they're almost all the moon.
Okay, so yeah, I
But
don't
it
know if
does
that,
claim to do deep sky, but it has a 30-day free trial, which implies you might have to pay for it. So I don't know.
no, you don't have to. Just all I want you to do is register.
Ah, that's the
Get a
old school
registration.
shareware, nagware.
I haven't been nagged yet, so I don't know. I just registered in and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't
That's
know.
cool.
It uses it
I mean,
uses,
look,
it uses MATLAB.
yeah, MATLAB, yeah. So it gives you a MATLAB runtime.
Hmm.
It looks like it would be good for planets also.
And it's good for Macs. It runs on Macs.
Yeah, MATLAB runs on Mac. So anyway, I think it's free. You just have to. What I did was I registered it, and they sent me a license key. And I searched the whole website. I couldn't find anything someplace that says send me money or
Hmm.
how much it is. I was willing to pay for it to try it, and so maybe he just wants to make sure that he
There's no
knows.
discussion. No discussion on cloudy nights or anything.
Not mentioned. I don't know. I haven't searched. The guy's name is Biggs. This guy.
Let's check it out.
Excuse me. What
One
other
more thing to
questions
mess.
out there? Nothing.
Let's see.
So who has some new stuff to show? Anyone been shooting anything? I know Mark, you've done a few things. Bill, do you have anything from like any adventures?
No, I just have the when I took the Crescent over the Hudson every year, we go up to Caitlin's family house on the Hudson, which is like probably a Bortle 5. But for whatever reason, the Crescent was in a perfect spot, location. And I think one of the things I've really feel like I'm comfortable with now is it took a while for PixInsight to like really understand PixInsight and the strategy and the tactics you use to try and pull out a lot of data in there. And using MLT to the fullest extent is like it blows my mind how much it can pull out. And I think I put that image out there when I know someone else did the Crescent. I wasn't trying to steal their limelight. I just was doing the same thing at the same time. I can pop it up if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was this? When did you put it out? Or
I threw it out because it was one of the threads. So let me see if I can find it. Other than that, it's just a lot of dragonflies and birds. So so I I did something to my back, and I usually try and take my full rig up to where we go in the Hudson out by Athens, New York, which is about an hour so south of Albany. And I didn't want to bring up the big rig, so I just brought the Sea Star, and it had the light pollution filter on. Uh, so the nebulosity you typically see around the crescent, I wasn't really able to get. Wasn't able to really pull through that detail. But instead, I was able to actually get a lot of the bubbliness of the what looks like the brain itself and pull that out. And I relied on MLT largely for that, and then of course stretched using curves, and then went back and used the blur exterminator to work the stars. But I was never able to really get a handle on the stars, probably because I'm using the Sea Star, and I don't have a way to filter it down beforehand when I'm collecting the data. So the stars were blown out, and I tried everything. I tried everything in PixInsight, any deconvolution, blur exterminator. I took it over to in Lightroom. I tried to use luminance layers to reduce it, and then eventually I just said to hell with it, and went in Photoshop used luminous layers, and then went into Lightroom and put a vignette on it to tone it down and just have your eyes focus on the main show. But otherwise, the stars were really difficult to work with is what it is.
Are you, Bill, are you doing the star extraction when you're doing the
Right.
background processing, or are you
Yeah.
doing it all at once?
Now that's the first thing I do is I pull stars out.
And you're still having trouble with them.
Yeah, I think it's just because typically I'll shoot with my quad, with that quad filter, which does a phenomenal job on tapering down the stars. It keeps the stars at bay. But even using whatever the light pollution filter is on C Star, it still wasn't able to dampen them. So I'm open to all suggestions on that. But that's what I did. I separate the stars in the nebulosity, work the nebulosity, and then have the stars get worked as well. But really work in nebulosity, and then I'll bring them back together and go from there.
What are you using to stretch the stars? How are you going about that? Because maybe they're just being overstretched. Are you using like the STF parameters, like the screen transfer function parameters
I really don't. Yeah, I guess it's STF because I'm really not doing much to pull out detail in the stars. What I'll do is I'll color calibrate it, right? And then I'll run blur exterminator, try and reduce the star size. And then sometimes I look for scripts because there's some scripts in there that seem to be able to handle stars pretty well. I don't know them offhand, but I know I have them loaded in. But in this case, it could be something. I always wonder when I go to recombine the image if somehow it lifts, like it never seems to recombine the way I think it's going to recombine. So maybe I need a little education on how to recombine the images.
Possibly. Are you
How do
using,
you how do you recombine?
What's that?
go ahead, Mike.
How do you recombine? You use image blend or something else?
Using pixel math.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, one thing you might want to try is using what's called if you use something like what Mike is suggesting, there's a script called image blend. You can set that to what's called screen mode
right.
for the blending type, and that gives a much I think better end result than just using pixel math. I used to use pixel math before, and I'm finding that or the last year or so I've been using image blend. I find that to give a better result, and you can even kind of fine tune how much star you bring back in or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look for that. You say that's is that a script out there just wandering out in the wilderness or
It's a free
Yeah.
script. There's another one called Star Stretch that might be SETI Astro. This
Okay.
is specific to PixInsight. I have to look up who does that. I'm just opening up PixInsight so I can look at the script.
Yeah. No, this is helpful. I'll definitely be looking at these guys.
So image blend is in general utilities. It's done by Mike Cranfield.
Okay.
He designed it with in consultation with Adam Block. So Mike Cranfield has a number of good tools that he's put out there in the public domain.
Okay.
That is the image blend.
Is that so when you guys say screen mode, is this kind of like something similar you would see in Photoshop?
Yep, it's the same. It's the same as like in layers in Photoshop. If you
Right.
pick your blend mode is screen,
Right.
it's the same as that. So I mean, you could do it in Photoshop. You could do a screen mode in that, but this utility for PixInsight, this image blend, it's really useful for a lot of things. Not just bringing the stars back in. You can use it to bring, like if you're shooting monochrome stuff, you can bring chromiants in, like just color only in terms of the blend image, things like that. Luminosity, if you're adding luminosity to like an RGB image, you can use image blend. It has a lot of uses.
Okay. I'll check it out. I think because I've tried to pull it out of PixInsight before to do a manual like layering in Photoshop, the data doesn't transfer over quite directly into a 16-bit TIFF. You know, like it's not the same. It's not the same thing. It must be the color calibration or something in there is not the same. I'd much rather do everything in pics, so this might be a good option.
Yeah, I think so. And then the Star Stretch is by SETI Astro, SETI Astro. It's a free plug-in, a free set of scripts you can just put in your repository and grab that stuff. That I found that if you do a screen transfer function, you can apply the parameters from the screen transfer to the histogram, to do a stretch.
Yep.
I found it in the past when I used to do it, when I tried doing it that way, I did it on a couple images. The stars were just always way too blown out. The STF is really just for visual only, so you can see something other than black when you're working on stuff. So using those parameters, just as what comes up if you were to apply STF to an image, I think overdoes it. Now you can go into the screen transfer function. You can kind of magnify if you move your scroll wheel. You can magnify the dark side, the left side of that histogram, and you can spread the white point out a little bit to reduce the intensity. But something like the Star Stretch, you might want to try. It has a couple sliders. One is star color, and then the other one is sort of the stretch factor. The default is 5. Sometimes I'll go to 5.2 or 5.3 because I find that the default is the stars they don't look like stars anymore. I mean, they just look like white dots. So you need a little, like there's a number of pictures you'll see, a number of images where the focus is definitely the nebulosity, where people are making the star fields like very unrealistically muted to bring out the nebulosity. That's not a particular thing that I'm attracted to.
Right.
So I tend to push it a little bit more. I think the default lends more towards that type of representation. So don't be afraid to, push the stretch factor a little bit
Mhm.
more on the stars than the default.
I got a question on the histogram then, because maybe I'm doing the histogram completely wrong. How do you get the data into the histogram? Because I traditionally, the way I learned and the way I've always seen is you take the STF, drag it over to histogram, and then reset the STF.
I start the histogram from scratch. When I'm doing a stretch, I just pull the central that effectively like the gamma slider over to the left a few times to just get something to show up, basically. I don't actually use STF for anything other than looking at the screen.
Okay, I
Yeah.
gotcha.
I mean, that's just personally. A lot of people use
Yeah.
STF like you're saying. You drag over the STF into the histogram and you get all those settings, and then you can kind of go from there. Um, I mean, I can show you real fast. Do you want me to pull
No,
up?
no, I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying instead of using STF, you're going in there and manually working the histogram.
Yeah, and I usually do about 3 passes of just histogram before I do like something like a generalized hyperbolic stretch or the sine H kind of stretch or anything like that, or curves.
Hmm.
So the histogram and other people might have other approaches. Mike, you might want to share what you do if it's different, or more experienced people. John or Brett or someone. In terms of what you're doing. That's just typically how I do it. I think part of it is because I'm old school. So like, when I first started doing this, Photoshop was really the only tool I had. And the only thing I used was curves and histogram, right?
Right.
You would do his couple histogram stretch, you would do a curve, you would set your black point. Then you do a little more histogram curves, black point, histogram curves, black point. You just kind of bounced around with those kind of tools because that's what was available back then. So for me, that's comfortable, and it's probably just because that's how I learned, however many years, 25 years ago, whatever it was. But that I think is a good approach, because I think you might find that the STF is going to be too powerful, and that might be why you're seeing the bloated stars.
Yeah, and it also could be this image blend because the pixel math I've I haven't been thrilled with, and so I'm glad that there's options out there to reblend. It always looks different,
Well,
no matter what I do in
you
pixel
said
math.
this is from the C Star, or this is?
Yeah, this is
Yes,
C-Star.
I mean the other factor there is it's extremely oversampled,
Yeah,
right?
yep,
So your
yep,
image scale, like with oversampled image scales, one of the results of that a lot of times is bloated stars. There's just too much information in the stars.
yeah. No, exactly right. Yep.
It'd be like
Yep.
it'd be like shooting with a real high focal length. Like if you shot with, something like a C11 with a modern camera, you're going to really need to bin that, or else you're really oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying it the other way around. That would be that would be that would be oversampled. You're undersampled on this.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, Gary, you're right. That was my concern, and it
yeah,
came
you're
through.
severely undersampled. I used the wrong phrase. Sorry.
Um, yeah, like I said, I would have preferred to have my regular setup, but
Yeah, yeah.
no, sometimes I think this is the first time in my life I physically wasn't able to get the regular setup
I tell you, it's
out of the
impressive though
basement.
what you got out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I
It
mean,
really
there
does
there
look like a
wasn't much
brain.
nebulosity, but the brain part was
Yeah.
I could work with.
You got some texture off the brain. I love it. Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
your total integration time, Bill, on this?
Uh,
I mean, roughly.
yeah, I think it was like maybe upwards of 9 hours.
Okay. So your normal, I know you try to shoot for 10, so you're
Yeah,
up.
10. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, and it happened to be just obviously in the right part of the sky, but not just in the right part of the sky for shooting. It also we're east west, the little area that we're at when we're up there is the only part of the sky that isn't saturated. So it just happened to kind of be cutting across, not only at a high, at a good spot in the sky, but at the band of the sky that I needed it to be.
Okay. So thanks for sharing it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the tips.
You're welcome. So it looks like I'm going to just backtrack 1 second. Anthony, is this your first time attending?
Oh, sorry. No, I've been on a few times, just kind of watching. I've been a member for a couple years, just kind of watching and learning.
Okay.
It's been a few months since I've been on.
Okay. Okay. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Who has some other stuff? Who has something else to show? Anyone else? I know the conditions have not been great, but
I don't have anything.
I got a bunch of stuff if you want to look at it.
sure, we'd love to. I know you've been posting some cool stuff, Mark.
Yeah, I've been like working in Cygnus. See if I can figure out how to do this. Let's see here. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Yeah. You hit the green share button in the bottom of your Zoom screen.
I thought I did. Let me try again. Oh, here we go.
Okay, it's
Sorry.
starting. Yeah, we see a Cygnus loop.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, what I like about the dwarf is you can do mosaics with it. And this was actually this is a 4 panel mosaic that was done. I think you got like 4 hours or on there. So it's like 1 hour on each of the 4 panels. And it goes ahead and puts it together right for you. It's pretty cool. So I took that data that came out of there and then I loaded it into Serial. And there I ran StarNet on it and removed the stars, and then I was able to play with the histogram to bring it out a lot more. And then I put the stars back in, and I toned them down like, I don't know, 25-30%. And then took it over to I just this Microsoft thing I got on my came loaded Microsoft Designer, and they got some really cool filters on there, like a punch filter and a radiant filter, and they got black and white filters. And so I think I put a radiant filter on this, and it just kind of like sharpens it up and all. I'm like really new to doing any kind of this processing stuff, and so I was kind of happy with what I got out of that.
That's cool. Yeah, it's a big section of the sky. It's a
Yeah,
pretty high
that's
resolution.
really impressive.
Yeah, that is a big area. I'll show you a few more. So this is just a single panel, basically the same thing. That's a 2 hours there. Same processing thing I did. That's the Eastern Veil with the Pickering's triangle there. And there's the Western Veil. Yeah, that took 4 hours there to get that. That's a lot dimmer. And my goal was like to get all the nebulas in Cygnus is what I was shooting for. Got it all over like in a 1 month period. Yeah, this kind of shows the limitations of the dwarf. This is a very small nebula and this is cropped and kind of blown up a little bit, but you can see it really doesn't bring out a whole lot of detail.
To be fair, the cocoon's pretty challenging, even with a bigger scope, in my opinion.
And let's see here. This was another 4 panel that I did of the North American and the Pelican.
Nice.
That was my first mosaic I ever did. I got better at it. Yeah, I got a couple more. Oh, wait a minute. Go back. Oh, there we go. I got the crescent. 3 hours on there. And wait, I missed another one back here. This is the tulip. The tulip's in there also. There's a lot of nebulas in Cygnus.
Mm-hmm.
The crescent, and then and this is the Saturn region that's that center star Saturn that's right at the intersection of the cross of the body and the wings. And someone calls it an IC 1318. They call it the Butterfly Nebula, which is basically right in this area. But I went ahead and did a 4 panel mosaic to capture even a more area there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where are you shooting from?
Oh, this is right out of my backyard here. I'm in East Norton, and we're bordering Bortle 7.5 to 8. Yeah, I mean neighbors have always got their spotlights on, and I love the dwarf because it's got it comes with a really nice dual filter system. It's like one filter is like the HA and HB combined, and then there's a second filter that also puts on at the same time of the O3. And I just can't believe what you can get in a light area where you're lucky if you can see Vega up in the sky.
That's it. Yeah, it's amazing. And that's using the internal filters, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It came loaded with them, and just pop them on, man. They work great.
That's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this one. That I did. That's the one I did like the last clear night we had like what 3 nights ago or 4 nights ago.
So I see 1318. Is that what it says?
Yeah, IC 1318.
So if you look in the top right corner of the image, there's a little bit of it looks almost like a star cluster kind of in the top right corner.
Yeah, it might be.
If you mouse over it, that looks like IC 1318 is labeled on Stellarium. So anyway,
Okay, as the star cluster there. Okay.
it's a H2 region, but yeah, it's cool.
That is cool. Yeah, there's a lot of nebulosity in that
Mhm.
region.
Definitely.
And that's 4 panels, you said?
Yeah, it's 4 panels, 75 minutes. What it does is it you get your go-to on, and it get your focus, and then it starts tracking. And I set it for 5 hours, and I was taking 60 second subs. I had it equatorially aligned, and it tracks it really good. It'll take like 20 60-second shots in each it'll be like panel 1 of 4. It'll take 20 there, and then it switches to panel 2, and it'll take 20 60-second shots there, then go to 3, and then the 4. And it's live stacking it the whole time that you're doing that. You don't get to see the whole thing live stack. You just get to see each panel's live stacking as it goes. And then once it's all done, it does print it out as a mesh together.
That's cool. That's a tempting target with you could just center it on that Satyr, that center star in Cygnus, and um, grab that whole field.
Yeah, that's what I did. I picked like a star
Right.
just in the center of the picture. I forget what the number was. It might have been like, I don't know. I can look it up in the raw data. But yeah, I just put it there, and then I widen the field. Like they have like a setting. Their normal setting is like a 1 by 1, for your axes. And I think I shot this one at 1.6 by 1.8. So 1/8 as big as you can get, and it's amazing the wide angle that you can get with this. In it's still the telephoto view. It also has a which is just the normal wide view that I took some Milky Way shots. Would you like to see the Milky Way I got?
Sure.
Find that. Here we go. Yeah, now that's not a telephoto. Like the telephoto would just be a real small area in there, but this is its normal wide angle view that you would use during the day. The other thing I like about the dwarf is that it's also a daytime camera. It's got just your normal daytime visual lens on there, and that you can do like wildlife shooting with. It's got tracking too, which is really cool. Like if you're out there in the field and you got a deer there, you can like have it focus right on the deer and say track this object, and as the deer walks around or whatever, it'll follow it, in a video mode, which is
That's
really
pretty
cool. It's really cool instrument.
That's nice. Yeah.
So I got that, and there's another view. I think I was on M8 in M11, I think, on these two shots.
And this is from East Norriton also?
No, this was, I happened to be out in Arizona, up near the
Okay.
Grand Canyon.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, I actually tried to get the Milky Way the other night here, straight up, and no.
I was going to say that's one heck of a filter that comes with that thing if it's able to grab that out of the light pollution here.
No, I gave it a try and was unsuccessful.
Nice.
But that's what I got to share.
Nice. Thanks.
I'll let's see, in my share. There
Hey, Mark, is that equatorial, the mount?
Yeah, it comes without a tripod, and so I just bought a $20 tripod that you could put a tilt on it, for the equatorial angle, and it comes with a equatorial mode that you can just set up. You basically, I just set it up the best I can where I think north is, and you tell it to run its thing equatorial, and then it tells you how far you're off and what kind of correction to do. Like it would say, rotate your tripod, 6 degrees counterclockwise, and take your angle tilt down 2 degrees, or so you do that. You say run it again, and then it says, like you're within 3 degrees of being, right on. Once you're within 5, it'll let you move on and do it whatever you want, or you can say, I want to be closer, and then it gives you another correction, 1 degree this way, 1 degree that way, and eventually you can get to where you're, like a 0 deviation, and that's, I almost always can achieve a 0 deviation with it. And I haven't tried longer than 60 seconds yet, but I know it's got a setting on it where you can go up as high as 120 seconds, 2 minutes. I'm gonna have to try a 2-minute shot in the future.
Yeah, that looked really good. So I guess when you do your alignment, you need to have view of the North sky, because it's going to be doing a standard alignment, or can you do something that's not looking at the North Star?
I'm not so sure that you can't do it not looking at the North Star, but I always go for the North Star. I'll try it, without that, and I can, tell you how, if it works or not. But I've always gone for the North Star, but I'm not so sure that you can't do it without it.
Sorry, I had to mute when I was coughing. The things like the ASI Air, and I'm assuming it's true with the Sea Star, they have what's called an all sky alignment. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dwarf has that, or a feature like that, where you don't need the North Star to do a polar alignment. But I don't really know. I don't have familiarity with the Sea Star and the Dwarf lab. Other than overhearing, other than hearsay from the groups. That's cool. Well, thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, thanks for looking.
I was telling the people earlier, Tom Strovanak was asking about planetary imaging, and I happened to I was at a wedding down in the city on Saturday night, and I knew that the early AM of Sunday morning was this Titan shadow transit, and I wasn't sure how much energy I'd have to do that, but I was willing to give it a shot. So on Friday night, the night before, I found a spot in my yard where I could see the North Star for polar alignment and also see Saturn at about 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. I have a lot of trees in my yard, so I was not where I normally, one of my 4 spots that I set up in my yard to see things. And uh, it worked out fine. So on Friday night, I got everything kind of polar aligned, and the uh, the finder and stuff like that aligned, and the camera set up, and I did a couple test exposures of just Saturn. Well, Saturday night when I get home, it was around 11:30 at night. We got back from the city, and it was kind of cloudy. It wasn't terrible, but it wouldn't have been necessarily been a good night. I was dead tired, and I thought, let me just take a nap for like an hour, hour and a half. I'll get up around 1:30 and I'll look outside. And I looked outside and it was hazy and stuff. There was smoke in the air, but the clouds were mostly gone. So I thought I'm gonna give this a shot. So I went down and I wound up, I fired everything up, and again I was polar aligned. So I just checked it, and that was still good. And I decided to start, taking some images. So I mentioned to the people earlier, I wound up, one of the negative results of going to this wedding is that there was a person at our table who had COVID the week before, had tested negative like 2 days before the wedding, went anyway, and 3 of us at that table, me, my wife, and another friend, wound up with COVID. So we got symptomatic yesterday, basically. And so I'm fighting a fever and all that kind of stuff now and kind of run down. But I was still feeling good when I was out there on Sunday night. So I wound up getting some images of that, so I can show those very quickly. I still have more to process. I wound up doing some of the capture in the ASI Air because I use that to just polar align with, and the event had just started, and it was sort of like, well, let me just try. I had never used the ASI Air for planetary capture. I had just used fire capture and sharp cap. So and fire capture is what I use routinely. So I thought, let me just try it. So I haven't processed those yet because I had to debayer them. I have to do a few more things to it, and I did some of that preliminary, but I didn't finish it before the meeting. Again, I haven't been feeling that well. But this is what I have from the fire capture, like the latter half of this session. So these are the individual frames. This is kind of near the end of when it started to run into a tree. When not the planet or the scope, but I mean the field of view went into the trees. These are all 2-minute. These were taken with the ASI. There we go. And here's a little animated GIF of that. These are all done with 2-minute captures. The frame rate with that region of interest was about 90 something frames a second. So each 2-minute capture was about 10,000 frames, 10,000 frames, and this is the best 30% of those. So this is Titan. There's the moon up here, and then that's the shadow. And you can see even the seeing was actually reasonable that night, I think because the air was so thick. But you can even see that even within those 2 minutes, these are sequential 2 minutes -1 where I had aborted because I had to stop the capture quickly. I just didn't have enough frames to make it worthwhile to process it. But you can see even here how some of the images, these are processed identically to one another. There's no difference done to any of these processing steps. You can see how some of them are noticeably sharper. You look at the contrast in the shadow, like that one, how it's noticeably better. The other thing that was kind of interesting, there's a little artifact that looks like from the animated GIF, but if we look at the, come on. How do I get out of this? There we go. So if you look at let me see if that's one with a good shot. This is pretty high contrast here. I don't know if this is just like my imagination or what, but it almost looks like you can see what might be a tiny bit of the penumbra or something like that. I'm not sure if that's just what's caused it, is why the shadow looks a little bit let me get to my controls here. If the shadow, why it looks a little bit fuzzy, or if it's just kind of the the result of the scene, stuff like that.
Well, it looks like the same effect is happening to the ring. So when the shadow fades a little bit, the same as you can see that happens to the ring as well at the same time.
So it's probably just the seeing. It's probably just a little
Yeah,
bit of
it's
blurring, I
probably
would
some
think. Yeah,
air turbulence or a cloud or
yeah.
it's a good shot though.
Thank you.
Very good. It's nice. That was F20.
That's F20. Yeah, I have a 2X Power Mate, an old 2-inch Power Mate that I used on my Dob for years. That I've just dedicated to this now because I don't tend to use it on that anymore. Um, and uh, the atmospheric dispersion corrector, the ZWO ADC, and then a ZWO ASI 485 MC camera, which is the predecessor to that 585 that John mentioned he has and we talked about. A C9 1/4 also on an Ioptron SEM 40 mount. That's the setup for that. And then the next night, I wanted to shoot the supernova, the 2025 RBS in 7331, and I thought I don't even know if it's going to be in the right field of view, between the trees. I'm kind of set up at the back of my property. There's trees like immediately to my left. Saturn's in the east, and Pegasus, where NGC 7331 is more in the kind of like the northeast earlier in the night. Well, just as luck would have it, and it worked. I mean, in a good way. The spirits were aligned, or whatever, the stars were aligned, figuratively speaking, where it happened. If I waited till around midnight, then that portion of Pegasus, that kind of northwestern part of Pegasus, the upper right corner, just cleared my neighbor's trees and was right in between a couple big trees that I have to the right of where the scope was set up. So I had this little column of clear, and it turns out that I was able to get 3.5 hours of the galaxy before it went into the branches, before the field of view went into the trees. So it couldn't have worked out better. And I shot with, I just swapped over the planetary camera with let me do this one. I took the planetary camera out. I have one of the ZWO ASI 2600 MC Pros, a cooled deep sky camera. So this is 3.5 hours shot with one shot color of that object with the Deerlick, with the little Deerlick group in there too. So if you zoom in a little bit, you can. And it was even interesting, even on the subs, and even before it was stretched, you could clearly see that the supernova was brighter than the core of that galaxy.
Yeah.
And if I pull this into PixInsight and you look at the readings of this is saturated right now. The supernova is saturated like some of the other brighter stars, but the galaxy is not. The galaxy is at about 95% or so max range. Yeah, 94, 95%. If I zoom way in on the core of that galaxy. And you can see even with this how that supernova is clearly brighter than that galaxy core, which just kind of blows my mind in a way that you have one star that's in these however many 500 billion stars, right? This is, I think, similar to the Milky Way. So let's assume it's similar size, some hundreds of billions of stars, and that one star can shine that brightly to rival the core of the whole galaxy. So I left the scope set up there because there's another Saturn Titan shadow transit coming up, and there we go. That's just annotated. So here's the Dirichlet group, and then the 7331 with the supernova in there, and a couple tiny PGC galaxies. So there are a couple additional shadow transits coming up, and then also this supernova is still going to be there, and I wouldn't mind getting more data on that to try to get the noise floor down without using, the overusing the AI tools to pretend that the noise is less.
Hey, Gary, I have a question and I would like to share two pictures. Can you hear me okay?
We can see you. We don't see the pictures yet. Yeah. Well, we can hear also.
No, I have a question about the Sea Star. I borrowed it a few weeks ago, and I could not get it aligned when it did not have a clear view of the eastern sky. Is that a normal thing? The west side was perfectly clear to the horizon, zillions of stars, and it would just keep on looking towards the east, and there was a building there, so I couldn't move the building. And I just finally gave up and went in the middle of the lawn in a cold purple region of Western Virginia. It's pretty dark. I don't know what. I just was really surprised because I wanted to image the western side, so an object there, but it just refused to align. It kept going to the east, and I don't know. Is that something people have experienced, or is it a property of Sea Star, or I was doing something wrong?
I don't know.
This alt azimuth, you're working in the alt azimuth mode?
No, it was like equatorial or triangle.
Equatorial.
So I don't know if he was looking for the North Star. I don't know why it would need to do that. I mean, it plate solve everywhere, right? But I don't know if ZW. I probably won't be going there.
Did you have a view of the North Star?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I was like on a balcony or a terrace of the building. There was about 2-3 stories. So, you can adjust the view or the position of the lens, right? Like you have these like 4 different positions, but they all wanted to go east. So,
I don't know.
I kept searching, and I finally says can't align. And that was it.
I don't have familiarity with the Sea Star, but the software is similar to the ASI Air, and I don't know where they diverge, but in the ASI Air, in order to do the all sky align where you don't need the North Star, there's the checkbox. There's a setting where you have to check it to do that. It's possible it might be the same in the Sea Star, and maybe that wasn't checked, so it didn't know to do an all sky alignment.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
Even Gary, real fast, even with the all sky alignment, it needs to have the east sky.
It does.
I'm pretty sure it needs to have some part of not due east, but it needs to have some part of the east sky, I think.
Okay, so that's probably what it was, but a bit frustrating because the west was an image. I forget which one, 57 and 57. beautiful clear sky. It's very nice, and for sure I can get it. I just gave up. Anyway, I have a couple pictures that I already posted it before, but I can show.
Yeah, please do.
Where is that? My desktop. Yeah. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So this was one, came out really nice.
Yeah, yeah.
27. This is like, it doesn't show. It was like 120 minutes, but this is not adjusted. I just put it in the iPad and I cut the intensity just a little bit because there were so many stars that it was all overblown. But it came out really, really beautiful in 123 minutes right here. So these were 30-second exposures.
I'm assuming that Culpeper County is fairly dark.
Yes, I don't know what level it was, but yeah, it was quite nice. Definitely, C-Star could handle that.
Yeah.
Still, you can see. Can you see this bar here?
Great.
That's in.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that, a little tiny.
You can see something in here, right? This cluster or something. Yeah. I assume that's real. Oh yeah.
47.
What is it? But the previous, there was a ring, but it's too small for that. Anyway, that was one picture, and the other one was this was a mosaic 2 times, and also not really using any software except Apple Photos, just a little bit small adjustment. I was quite impressed at how it works. 75 minutes. And this was while I was sleeping. I just left it in the middle of the field. Had an extra battery to keep the heater. And I don't know if it put any filters. I just borrowed this C-Star, just put a strip.
Tom, when you were doing the dumbbell, did you have a filter on that?
I did whatever it did by default. I don't know. How would I know?
The bright object you were wondering it. There's a bright star in Volpecca. It might just be the coloration of that might be from a filter that's in the
You talk about this where I have my mouse?
Yeah.
How come I cannot zoom on it? To just advance this. Anyway.
Yeah,
I was pretty pleased that this came out like this with this little device that, I have my 10-inch Dobbs. I could probably barely see it there.
I'm looking at Stellarium at the same field of view, and that's 14 Volpecca, that bright star there, that one.
So it's not in kind of cluster, it's just overexposed star.
Yeah, or possibly color shift due to the whatever filters are in the C-Star. Like if they're narrowband filters that's what was used, will often cause the shift in star colors too. And then if you color calibrate the stars, it'll take that out. But if it's not color calibrated, then you'll still get some false color on the stars. That's something that can occur.
Okay. I like green. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's art, right? A lot of these pictures are a result of art processing a little bit.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's all I had. I had some other ones, but probably pretty boring.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, this one was the very first one I tried. For 16 minutes, this thing is overexposed and 42. But it's so bright.
Yeah, it's a tough one. The core is so bright.
Yeah.
Tom, did you use the AI denoise
on this one?
Yeah.
This was a long time ago. I don't think they even had a denoise function. Let's see. This is from November of last year.
Yeah,
So
they might have just rolled it out or might have been around. The reason I ask because that's the one thing I wish they would fix on denoise. To Gary's point about having a more natural image, right? You can't select, you can't control the intensity, and it takes it up to max. It
Mm,
makes it look very plasticky.
yeah.
They don't allow you on Bill. They don't allow you on the C Star to
Now
control
you can't
it
control the
out.
intensity. You just hit a button and it'll denoise it,
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
that's
which is nice in some ways. Like if you're doing galaxies or like really faint stuff, like faint galaxies, it's nice in that space. But you know, for some of this other stuff, it takes away the realism, I think, from it.
Yeah.
that's all I had.
They're nice, Tom. What about that M51? Was that shot in
Let's see.
the like the third one, that one over?
This one?
Down, that's 31, down one. There you go.
Oh yeah, that was kind of a bad attempt in processing. I mean, you can't tell what it is, but no, I think I tried to process it myself, and I think I made it worse than it was.
Okay.
One day, maybe that's the one I was trying to image from the west side because it looks so interesting. Yeah, you can tell what it is, but not good.
Nice.
One of these days I'll have to buy one so I can play with it more. Okay, that's
Oh,
stop
thank you.
sharing. Oh, here we go. Okay, great, thanks.
So anyone else have anything or have any questions or anything they want to discuss?
I have a question on flats. I've never really looked at my flats. I mean, historically, I always blink them, just make sure that they're sound. But I never bothered looking at my master flats and PixInsight. And what I've noticed is some of them, there's a grid, and it's the grid from the light panel,
Mhm.
the LED light panel, and
Oh,
so to make sure it was the LED light panel, I did the old-fashioned T-shirt the other day, you
yeah.
know, and so the flats were excellent, no grid pattern, nothing. And I put the light panel back on, see the grid pattern. Um, Now the panel I was using was the typical A4 panel from Amazon, just put it on top of the scope. So I ran into a problem. I noticed originally I never even noticed an issue with PixInsight. But I've noticed an issue using the Optilong L Ultimate filter, which is a 3 nanometer
Mm.
filter. And I've noticed when I was blinking my flats that there was some color dispersion in the flat, little red on the left and blue-green on the right, which I guess is normal. But what it actually was doing was pulling it out of the light panel, which then actually has an effect later when you're running when you're processing and PixInsight, because it tries to subtract something that's actually not actually there. I just wonder if folks have noticed this. So I've gone to another light panel, still LED, um, but I've also been looking at the luminance ones. They're not LED. And
Yeah.
those are hard to find actually. There's one in Germany, I was just wondering if other folks have had similar experiences or any problems or.
I've
Can I
seen,
ask?
I've seen that color dispersion in flats when I'm taking flats if I use like a dual band filter or something like that. Um, I can't say I've noticed the end result. Noticed it in the end result. I've never seen the grid, but I tend to, even if I use I have a cheapo, like a similar what you're saying, like an A4 Amazon, $20 LED panel, but I still put a piece of translucent plexiglass
Right.
in between the panel and the objective.
I've done that and I still get the pattern.
You still get that. Oh,
Still get
interesting.
it.
Can I
So
ask
so
how
originally
long you're
I would put white paper and then I did get an acrylic piece of plastic from Amazon. It's called Milky White. And I've done that last week, and I still get the pattern. It comes right through.
Wow.
Um, and so I just find it extremely interesting.
how long are the subs you're taking doing that?
Okay, good question. Originally, I was using the ASI Air Auto, which is like it, given the light intensity, it figures out what the
Yeah.
exposure is. So
Yeah.
it's like, typically it'd be like 0.8 seconds. But
Okay.
with narrowband, you should be up to like 3 seconds, three to
Right. It'll go
five. And
longer.
so then I stretched it, I went to three to five. And so the stacking of the flats actually improved. But in some cases you still see the matrix.
Huh.
In fact, I have an
One
example here if I can share my screen.
one thing you might want to try would be to just put a little bit of distance, put a small
Yeah,
spacer between the panel and the translucent plastic, the plexiglass panel.
I've done that too, and I still get it.
You still get it.
You
Wow.
still
I
get
use
it.
the cheap Amazon panel like you're talking about, but I use the back of it, and then it makes my subs be longer.
Yeah,
In my experience, when I use the front of the panel, it was too bright, even on the dimmest
right.
setting. And then I would see some of that. I could see texture.
Yeah.
Well, so John, you're saying you flip it over?
Yeah, I use the back of it. It's like a thin cardboard.
Interesting.
And but if the exposures are too short, I'll see like texture or like patterns and things.
So I just got the Wanderer Magino Astro um light pad.
Yeah.
So I'll be trying that. It seems to be a little bit better. It doesn't have the doesn't seem to apparently it doesn't have as much of a strong matrix coming through. But I'll have to experiment with it more. I just got it, so. But
Hmm.
I've never noticed this before, and I've never had anyone actually bring it up until I noticed the pattern. Until I noticed it with the Optolong L filter.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm just wondering if this is inherent with monochrome, with monochrome or with filters. Anyway,
Yeah, it's interesting.
I just made too many assumptions, I guess. You blink the flats and you see no issues. So I never looked at the master flat. So
Is this, and then you said you were using it with a narrowband filter, so you're shooting mono?
no, I'm shooting
One
shooting
shot color?
color, but shooting with the Optolong, which is a dual band
Oh, yeah, that's right. You
fusion
said the L
oxygen.
extreme. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so in the master, you're not, I mean, in the subs, you're sure you're not seeing the Bayer mask, right? From the one shot color, the
I don't
grid
think
from
so.
the Bayer
No,
mask.
I don't think so.
I mean, you'd have to zoom way, way in. You'd have to look at the individual pixels.
Right.
Um, that's interesting. No, I'm not. I'm interested in one thing you said. You said that with the you saw some sort of like almost like, for lack of a better phrase, like color fringing or something
Yeah.
in that. And you said you did see that, the effect of that in your final image from the flat?
I don't remember. It was on the individuals.
Because I have seen that color fringing with like I said, the one shot color with like a dual narrow band filter.
Right.
Um, like one of the Nebula Boost filters, for instance. And but I've never seen that reflect into the final, because I thought with the
Oh,
flats they're basically just using the
right.
monochrome data.
Right. As I recall now, when I final stack, it wasn't there.
Okay, okay. That makes
Right.
sense.
It was not there.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm more concerned about the matrix.
Yeah. I mean, like the
Um,
old flat frames used to do, they use, multiple layers of plexiglass spaced by, a small amount with the light source above all of it. So maybe more space or a second panel or something. But I guess if
yeah,
you're doing the Wanderer Astro, those I think are fairly even illumination from what I've heard.
right. But even illumination, I'm still concerned about the matrix of the LEDs. So
Right, right.
anyway, just a curious.
Yeah. Well, be curious to hear what you find as you go down the path.
I've got one picture here. I can't seem to get it onto my screen here to show you of the matrix. Um, I don't know if I can share it. I don't think I can share it for some reason.
There should
I
be a
tried
little
opening
green
it.
up arrow.
Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to get it onto my
Oh, okay.
screen here.
Gotcha.
For some reason, it's not letting me copy it over. Anyway, okay.
Okay, anything else from anyone? Have
I've
you
got a
been
question
Wayne? Yeah, go ahead.
in processing. I'm using Cyril, and uh, some of the utilities in Cyril seem to change my original picture from 32 bits to 16 bits when I process them. And uh, is that normal? Is that something that I should, how should I handle that? Just throw it back to 32 bits after I'm done each
Yeah.
step?
Yeah, the StarNet++, I believe, only works in the 16-bit TIFF type thing. And I thought it would automatically take it back into 32-bit. But yeah, do all your processing in the highest bit rate, the 32-bit.
Yeah, I want to do 32-bit across the board, but like the cosmic clarity things and denoising programs, they all seem to leave it in 16 when they're done. And so I've been clicking the control back to 32, and I don't know what's happening to my picture in the process.
Right. I've wondered that too. Like, am I losing a little bit from taking it through downcasting it to a lower data type early in the process or not? But it's hard to say.
Okay. Yeah,
Does,
this
does
processing is real black art.
Yeah, it is. Does Searle have a proprietary format like PixInsight does, or does it keep it in just TIFF or something like that?
I
It,
use
Or
fits
fits?
yeah, it's a
from
standard.
the start, and now there's some things that require a TIFF, but most of the time, fits is what it uses.
Okay. So it just maintains the fits file format throughout.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
some Python scripts or whatever where they'll switch it to a TIFF and then switch it back into fits when they're done.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a default configuration, so you can say the default should be 32-bit fits. Might already be that way. So at least because it'd be annoying to like have it flip over to 16-bit and do your processing and then realize you're in the wrong mode the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd be
I think that happened to me the one time where it switched to 16 and I didn't catch it,
yeah.
and then later down the road I realized it didn't look right,
You got to
and
undo
so
everything, start over.
I backed up and started over.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
It would be. That would be annoying. Well, we saw that, John, if you remember a while back, one of the early meetings,
Hmm.
probably over a year ago, year and a half
I
ago,
remember it. Yeah.
somebody had some what basically looked like posterization, and it was literally because the file format. It might have been Brett. It might have been Brett had that. But anyway, Brett's not on now. But it wound up being a posterization kind of issue because of a reduced depth, bit depth in the files
Right.
saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do all your operations in 32-bit, then save it out when you're done.
Yeah. I guess with PixInsight you wouldn't see that because it uses its proprietary, that XISF file format. It has its own proprietary format because it keeps all the header information. It keeps, the astrometric data in there. It keeps everything in there. All your processing steps.
Hmm.
They're all buried in the file. Any other questions? Anything else before we wrap up? No?
It's supposed to get clear now, then we have a new full moon.
Yeah,
I was like, come on.
exactly. I think Friday night's supposed to be really good.
I
And
saw that. I was like, oh, it's the best Thursday night.
you gotta shoot H alpha or something. Or sulfur. You could shoot sulfur
There
on,
you
on moony nights. So yeah. Anything that's not blue. Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending, and hope to see you next month. And we will do. I'll let Jen. I'll give it. I won't be at the meeting on Friday due to this
Yeah.
having COVID, obviously. But I might send Jan a slide or something when she does the intro. I was supposed to be her ride for the meeting since she has a broken foot at this point. But yesterday I had to cancel out of that for obvious reasons. So, but I might send a slide to her so she can at least announce that we'll start the meeting a little earlier for beginners to ask like kind of newbie questions. And again, newbie questions are welcome at any time during the meeting. But if we have a dedicated slot, it might be less intimidating for people to, to jump in with questions when the full group's here. So, sound good?
Good.
Okie doke. Well, thank you again, everyone, and good
Well,
to see you.
take care.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye.
Hope you feel better soon, Gary.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your help.